Eating your national symbol isn't disrespectful. It might be the most patriotic thing you can do. That's the argument Australians are making right now, and the evidence is genuinely disturbing to everything we believe about conservation. Because the kangaroo crisis Australia faces isn't about protecting an endangered species. It's about managing 50 million animals destroying ecosystems. The solution? Dinner plates. And the logic behind it will make you question every assumption you have about environmental protection. Let's start with why this is so weird. Look at any Australian passport. You'll see the coat of arms. Two animals stand on either side, the emu and the kangaroo. The Australian government picked these animals on purpose. They represent strength, pride, and the unique spirit of the continent. They're national symbols. Now walk into any Australian supermarket. In the meat section, right next to beef and lamb, you'll find kangaroo meat. There are kangaroo fillets, kangaroo mince, and kangaroo sausages. It's completely legal. You can buy it anywhere. Between 2000 and 2020, about 14.5 million kangaroos were commercially harvested. That's according to the Australian government's own data. Australians eat their national symbol regularly. Here's the big question. Why?
Why would a country put an animal on its flag and serve it for dinner? The answer changes everything you think you know about Australian food culture. And it starts with a problem most people have never heard of. Here's the thing about kangaroos. They're really good at surviving. Actually, they're too good at it. Before European settlers arrived in the late 1700s, nature kept kangaroo numbers balanced. Droughts, predators, and limited water sources controlled the population. Then settlers changed everything. They drilled water wells across the outback. They cleared land for farms. They killed natural predators like dingoes in large areas. What happened next was predictable. Remove the limits on a population, and that population explodes. According to the Australian Department of Agriculture, the kangaroo population has sometimes exceeded 50 million animals. That's more than double Australia's entire human population. Think about what that means. 50 million large animals eating grass. They compete with farm animals for food. They compete with native plants for survival. They damage fragile desert ecosystems that took thousands of years to develop. Australian scientists have shown how too many kangaroos directly harm native habitats.
These are the same ecosystems Australia is famous for protecting. So the question was never, should we control the kangaroo population? It was always how. One answer was remarkably practical: eat them. But that's only part of the story. The decision to sell kangaroo meat wasn't just about ecology. It was also about economics. And that economic story goes back further than most Australians realize. Here's a fact that surprises most people. Aboriginal Australians have been eating kangaroo for at least 40,000 years. This isn't a modern food trend. This isn't a new sustainability experiment. Kangaroo meat is one of the oldest continuously eaten foods on this continent. For indigenous communities, kangaroo wasn't just food. It was part of ceremonies, community, and survival, all woven together. Early European settlers learned to eat kangaroo too, but out of desperation. The first fleet arrived in 1788 and faced severe food shortages. Historical records show that Governor Arthur Phillip reported kangaroo meat helped the struggling colonies survive. So kangaroo kept Australians alive at the very beginning of European settlement. But then something strange happened. As Australia grew wealthier, it imported European food culture. Kangaroo meat quietly became associated with poverty.
It became what you ate when you couldn't afford beef. For decades, kangaroo meat was sold mainly as pet food, not for humans, for dogs and cats. South Australia became the first state to legalize kangaroo meat for human consumption in 1980. Other states slowly followed through the 1990s. The full acceptance of kangaroo as normal food is less than 30 years old. But once the stigma broke, something else emerged, a powerful argument that changed the entire conversation. This is where kangaroo meat becomes genuinely fascinating.
Kangaroos are, by almost every environmental measure, a remarkably sustainable meat source. Here's why that matters in Australia. Australia's cattle and sheep industry produces a lot of the country's agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. Cattle produce methane, a greenhouse gas. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, methane is about 28 times more powerful than carbon dioxide over 100 years. Now here's the remarkable part. Kangaroos don't produce methane the way cattle do. Their digestive systems work differently. Research from the University of New South Wales shows kangaroo digestion produces acetate instead of methane. This dramatically reduces their environmental impact compared to livestock. On top of that, kangaroos have soft paws instead of hard hooves. In Australia's fragile dry soil, cattle hooves cause serious damage. The soil cracks and erodes. Kangaroos move across the landscape without tearing it apart. They're literally native to the ecosystem in a way European livestock simply aren't. So the environmental case isn't just eat kangaroo instead of beef. It's the animal you're already managing, can feed people, and causes less environmental damage at the same time. According to Australian food sustainability researchers, that's close to an ideal solution. But does any of this actually change how Australians feel about eating their national symbol? That answer is more complicated than you'd expect. Not every Australian is comfortable with this. Look at any Australian online forum discussing kangaroo meat. You'll find two completely opposite camps. One camp sees kangaroo as practical, sustainable, and uniquely Australian, something to be proud of. They'll tell you it tastes like lean, rich venison. They'll cite the environmental research. They'll point out that Aboriginal culture has honored this animal through eating it for 40,000 years. The other camp feels genuine discomfort. It's hard to explain rationally, but completely understandable emotionally.
The kangaroo is on the coat of arms. It appears on Australian currency. It's the image the entire world associates with Australia. To some Australians, eating it feels like eating your own identity. This tension reveals something true about food culture everywhere. Food is never just food. It carries meaning, it carries memory, it carries a culture's entire relationship with its land and history. What makes Australia's case remarkable is that both sides are arguing from genuine love of the same animal. The conservation camp argues eating kangaroo respects and manages the species responsibly. The discomfort camp argues the kangaroo deserves protection as a cultural icon. Neither side is wrong. They're just measuring love differently. Kangaroo meat in Australia isn't just a food trend or a tourist novelty. It's an ongoing conversation about identity, ecology, history, and what it actually means to belong to a land. That's what makes Australian food culture completely unlike anywhere else on Earth, because nowhere else has the national symbol also been the practical solution to an ecological crisis for 40,000 years. So, does eating your national symbol make you more connected to your country? Or does it cross a line that should never be crossed? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And before you go, South Korea built an entire national museum dedicated to a single food, not a cuisine, one dish. The psychology behind why reveals something even more surprising than anything you just heard about Australia. That story is already waiting for you. Click it.